Yo, Sean
Yo,
Carter, what's good?
what's going on, man? Thanks for having me on the show.
Bro, if I wouldn't have put a stop to this pre-interview conversation, we would have just gone for hours. So I'd rather just capture this shit here. Hot damn. Man, you have a fascinating upbringing, and I want to hear all about it. Bringing you to here, to this moment. What is your story in music and in sync and in life? Just tell me about you, Sean Carter.
Cool, man. Yo, thanks for having me on the show. First and foremost, I'm a fan. I'm watching everything you upload. The content is great, and it's keeping me
Hey,
inspired.
hey,
Yeah. My name is Sean. I'm a music producer, audio engineer, and recording artist. Kind of an all around creative for sound and music. Never really had a very specialized thing. I just love it so much that I've just been grateful enough to put my hands on a bunch of different disciplines within the art form. But yeah, man, I grew up. I grew up in Bangkok, Thailand. I moved to Bangkok when I was like 13 years old. Moved from the states. I was always playing music in the states. I was in jazz bands and orchestras, singing in the choir. Then we moved to Thailand. We moved to a place called Rayong, which is kind of three hours uh, east of Bangkok. It's like a small fishing town. At least back then it was 1999. Small fishing town back then, and I was very isolated. I had a lot of time to just be by myself and listen to a bunch of different sounds and music. And I could go to a CD store and just buy all these records from around the world, and I could go back and like chop it up and sample and just make these crazy beats from all these different sounds. And I just fell in love with it, man. And that was kind of like my breaking point. I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to be involved with sound or music in some capacity. Really didn't know where it could take me. Um, and Around 16 years old, we moved to Bangkok, the capital of Thailand. And I started recording out of the bedroom and like selling CDs out of my backpack. The old school way. This is before like streaming. You had to actually have like a backpack full of CDs to sell to people, man. I'm showing my age. But I was doing stuff like that, and I caught the ear of a record producer in Thailand, and he kind of brought me into the studio and was like, "You have a good ear, and like I can see what you're trying to do. Let's work on it." And I got my first recording deal and production deal at like 16 years old. So I was writing for artists like major label artists in Thailand. I was producing. I was doing a lot of ghost writing, a lot of ghost production, and that was like my first like I knew I could do this for a living, and it was awesome, man. Like I'm in the studio all night. My parents were cool with it. My parents were like, I would get out of school, I would go to the studio, record. Yeah, it's basically in the studio all the time. And if I wasn't in there, I'd be at the house making more music. And we hit the road. We do shows, we do tours. It was incredible. So I was like, all right, that's all I'm doing for the rest of my life. And After I graduated high school, I was accepted to the Savannah College of Art and Design, scholarship in sound design and music. So I went to Savannah, Georgia, and did the program in sound design, and that really like changed everything, man. That kind of like showed me how I could make music and audio for film and media, games, not just like recording itself, not just music itself, but like how you can apply those same kind of principles across the board and different like areas of the art form and different like platforms, So that changed everything, man. I Once I graduated out of SCAD, I got a job working at the studio called Silent Sound Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. It's not Silent Sound anymore. I forgot the name of it now, but Ti owns it now. But I was working there like intern, assistant, working with artists like Usher, Ti, and like Kanye, Jay, all these people coming in, and I was, just a fly on the wall and just doing like a lot of patch bay routing. But that was also just another way for me to work with engineers and work with producers and train my ear and understand like what I should be doing and signal flow and vocal chains and things like that. So I'm just kind of piecing together my career. I'm like, I still don't really know what exactly is I want to do, but I'm I'm having fun. And after that, well, no, actually not after that. I was there for about a year, and I asked the chief, like, what's the what's the chances of me becoming the chief engineer here, or like the lead engineer here? And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the way it works, like the structuring with like engineering, at least old school engineering. You're like an assist, or you're intern, you're assistant, and then you become like engineer. But those like years are very, very like those years can vary in between each one. Like you could be an intern for 3 years, and then you can be an assistant for 4 more years, and then you can finally become a lead after like 7 or 8 years. It takes a lot of time, and I was like super impatient. I was like, no, I can't, I can't stay here for like 3 years. So um, I went to post and audio. I'm sorry, post sound for audio, and sorry, that makes sense. Post sound for film, um, and I was like, I could just be a bit more creative. There really didn't feel like there was a ceiling, and there really wasn't like a this kind of waiting in the wings kind of thing, which is great if that's what you want to do, to be an engineer. I just realized that that wasn't the path that I wanted to take. And then I was doing like doing music composition for this company, and also doing like dialogue editing, noise reduction, kind of fixing damaged musical cues, and just fixing bad audio altogether. And I was there for about a year, and then a job offer came up in Bangkok, Thailand, for uh, like a sound designer for their film company. It's a British film company, and I ended up taking that job, or applying for that job, and then like 2 weeks later, like I got the job offer and was flown out to Bangkok. Um, yeah, and I was at this company for a year, and we're doing advertisements, commercial spots all throughout Asia. And I was everything from like the field location audio engineer, doing pre-production, and then like production in the field, and then also like taking that material back to the studio, doing mixing, dialogue editing, writing the music, everything, man, like ADR. Basically, this is an in-house sound guy for everything. So it was just once again like putting these puzzle pieces together to figure out like, all right, where am I going with this, and what's going on. And I was always making music still, like just as an artist on the side, and doing shows here and there. But after that contract was over with that company, that British company, they gave me the offer to either stay in Thailand, or I can, fly back to the States. And I decided to stay in Thailand. And it was just so much, man, the accessibility back then, this was like 2013, 2014. I just thought about it like, and if I'm being a little long winded, just tell me like, yo, Sean, break it up. but like, but I thought about it like, if I was in the States, if I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and I fly 3 hours or 2 hours, I'll be in New York. If I fly north, I'll be in New York. 2 or 3 hours, I could fly to the west or Midwest. I could be in Chicago. If you do that in Thailand, you fly from Bangkok 2 hours, you can be in Singapore. 2 hours, you could be in Vietnam. 2 hours, you could be in KL. 5 hours, you could be in China. So I'm just like, what's going on in this region? And it, it felt like there was just so much happening at that time that it didn't feel right to leave. It felt like this is the place to be at. It's exciting. There's so much going on. And there's just different stories and projects that you could be a part of that are so unique. That's not happening in the West at all. So I stayed in Thailand and started freelancing and started a company. And I was working all throughout Asia, Southeast Asia. Um, yeah, man, it was like incredible, doing everything from field audio production to writing music for uh, trailers, commercials, films, features, songwriting for features, and I mean, doing sound design for features, doing sound design for commercials, basically a whole audio buffet of things that I was able to put my hands on, and I was extremely fortunate for that. And that's like really what built me up to say like, all right, I've got all these things, I've got music, and where can I take all of this together and like really apply it with a with a team and be collaborative, because I was working alone for so long. I was just like joining different crews at specific times. And I applied for a job at the Washington Post. It's like the first position for an audio engineer and composer. And I got the job. And I've been working at the Washington Post for about a year and 5 months now. as their audio engineer and composer for their podcast, Post Reports, um, other investigative projects. I've done music for a few things here and there. Scored some commercial. I'm sorry, not commercial. Scored some documentaries, and also do like the audio for documentaries and film. And there's just it's another one of those things where I have a breadth of like different subjects and topics and material being thrown at me all the time, and I feel like my past and the jobs I've had have prepared me for this to kind of attack different elements of sound and music in different applications.
Holy, I feel like a boring person now. You made me feel horrible about myself. Holy hell. When she started making money out of music at like 9? Dude, shit, I should resign right now.
No, man.
Um,
Definitely
bro,
was
wait,
not making money. I was not making money for a long time. I was like,
kidding. But, like, it takes something to know what you want so soon and to pursue it like you did. And also, there were so many things that came up from this, but the main things was first, like the ability to invest so much of your time in like in a studio and in becoming that, and then realizing, like, having the actual balls to go, nah, this isn't. I just been next to Kanye, Jay-Z, but I don't think that's the thing for me. Like, a lot of people would not miss that opportunity because they wouldn't even get to the studio with them. So, but your ability to, like, just decide, fuck that, to me, it's admirable because it's like an opportunity that other people would say, "Oh, what a fucking what a dumbass,"
yeah, yeah,
To
absolutely.
me, it's like it's huge, like being able to know yourself to the point where you're like, "I deserve to be there." Yeah, I know it takes some time. Well, it's for me, it's not going to take that much time, and I'm going to do it my way. So that's a huge thing I wanted to double click on. And then another thing that really stuck out to me was the fact that you were in Thailand. You were doing basically work for hire, and I have a question for that. How does that work with, let's say, royalties? Because you are a gun for hire, you're getting paid a paycheck, but you're also like doing things for these films
Sure.
and and ads and all these things. How does that work within, let's say, the sync/royalty realm?
Yeah, I guess like that's the downside of not having or not being a part of a PRO in overseas or in Thailand, because I or the contracts I was doing, they were basically working straight to brief. So I would get projects and they're like, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is the kind of the zone or the flow that we're looking for. This is the reference. But it was straight up work for hire. There was no royalties whatsoever. It was just like, we will give you an upfront fee and you let us know how long we can use this for, and then that's it. So I never received any royalties from the stuff that I did within Thailand itself. Now, the stuff that I did, like when I was in Thailand doing stuff for the States, that's a bit different, or like for Europe, it's a bit different. But when it came to Asia, it was no royalties,
Hmm,
which is like the,
gotcha.
the downside of it all.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, like, I've had a conversation with a really insane uh, um, producer that makes all his money from royalties, which
Mhm.
is insane. And
That's
then same thing
incredible.
with
Damn.
Steve. He's too shy to talk on the podcast, but he's
Oh, really?
insane dude. But what he was saying was, when you get paid a big upfront, you basically, it's basically like a show paying you a few $1,000s throughout the years, right? But it's right there and there, then and there, which gives it less of the passive feeling, but it's still, you
Hmm.
still get paid for it. It's just like uh, uh, um, same lady in a different dress, I guess. Like, that's how
Yeah, yeah.
in Israel. You have an Israeli wife, so that. But so, like. But let me just circle back to the other thing that came up for me with this. What what got you to do all these things that you did, like with just these pivots and these changes and this belief in yourself? What do you think drove that?
I think what drove that, man, is that I had very early on, I had like influential engineers, influential producers that I look up to, and my parents as well, who were just like, you got to do your own thing. Like you have the skills. Like, don't be afraid to push back. And I think I definitely wouldn't have had like those kind of pivots if I didn't have that kind of like support in the background. If I'm saying like, hey, you grew up different, you've seen different things, you've heard different things, like your ears are trained to different things. You shouldn't expect to be in the same place as such and such because they don't have that. They weren't exposed to that. So you have to find out your own path. And once I started thinking like that, like, okay, I have to find my own path and kind of carve out this unique role. It's not going to be something that I can search online for. It's not going to be something I can go to LinkedIn and type in I'm looking for this job. It doesn't exist. You're going to have to go and create it yourself. And then those opportunities will come towards you. So once I had like that kind of backing and that mind state, it really made it way easier for me to push through and like be really confident in the decisions that I was making.
So um, coming from that, what is the next thing that you're looking to create for yourself?
Oh man, just more, man. I guess it's more music and just better, like more quality. And when just to circle back about the royalties thing you were talking about, like now I'm back in the States and I'm like just creating a ton of music for a catalog so I can start getting these royalties and working with more Western music agencies and sync agents to get these royalties popping because I did miss out on a lot of it. Which I said was like a negative, but it was also a positive. It was a downside to, of course, like not going to get these royalties, but it also gave me the scope of work to like, hey, I can do this, and I can actually use this as a stepping stone to get to the next step. So yeah, man, I'm just trying to just do bigger things and have more fun and put out more music and share the love where I can and help out other engineers and producers.
Yeah, and like, and to what you were saying, a lot of people have day jobs on their journey to become a full-time music composer. You have become a full-time music guy in order to reach the point where you're now making stuff for royalties. But it's just like it's there's no one way,
Exactly. Yeah.
to skin this cat. There are so many ways, and I think that's the huge takeaway. Like, I mean, if you're doing music full time now and that is your dream job, then wait with sync a few years. Like, I mean, the royalties will still be happening in 5 years. I mean, I don't know how the market will look or whatnot, but like, if this is what feeds you right now, if this is what you're the job that you're creating from yourself, there will be something on, like, there will be something that is next, um, which
Yeah.
is, I mean, like, the podcast's about sync, right? But I mean, to me, if you've created your stability through something that is the thing that people work their whole life to create for themselves,
Yeah.
then, well, hell yeah, go ahead. There are so many people who are working a tech job because they
Yeah.
have to support their family, or they're working other. I have a friend who works at FedEx. I have friends who do everything, and basically that's their dream.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, man. Grateful. Forever grateful.
yeah. So I mean, let's say in your place, in your position, your style, your production, your mixing, how would you define yourself as a professional in 3 words?
Mm, I'd say versatile, uh, flexible, and hmm, I guess communicative. Like those three, I would say versatile, flexible, and communicative. I feel like those three are like always like the biggest things I've looked at engineers I looked up to, producers I looked up to, composers I looked up to. Because if I'm working for a company or a client, then those three things are like, you got to have those three things. You're not working for yourself. But if I'm writing music for myself as an artist, those three things are still like, they hone in, man, because time is of the essence and trying to get things done, be flexible, be versatile, and like be open about what you're feeling, be open about what you're not feeling, be open about what you're trying to do, and try to communicate that the best way possible. It just makes everything faster.
And what's let's say, I mean, what is a mistake you see people do over and over again who, let's say, are trying to do something like you are doing?
Oh man, I think like that's a tough question. I feel when people ask me, I don't know how to answer that question because I don't know what people's exact goals are, what their end goal is, or like what they're trying to do. When when people ask me questions like that, I would probably think not trying things or kind of limiting yourself in one area, or just like I'm only going to do this and that's all, and I'm just going to close every other lane and any other opportunity that comes at me, not knowing that a certain opportunity could open up a whole nother lane for you in music and sync and audio that you would have no idea about. And I think that's really what's like changed for me. It's just like being open and experiencing things, and maybe not saying yes to every job, but if I didn't say yes to a lot of them, I definitely wouldn't have the experience and like the knowledge to take me to that next step. So I would say that mistake of like just being closed minded and thinking there's only one way with music and audio. There's like you said, man, there's a million ways to do this. So keep an open mind. I don't know if that's probably like so vague. It's like vague as hell. Just like be
All right.
open minded.
So scratch this interview. Nah, man. 100%. And I mean, I can say from my own perspective that I lack these sometimes. Like I lack flexibility at times, and I lack versatility, and it costs me years. Like I mean, it actually cost me years of needing to figure out by myself as opposed to being collaborative.
Hmm.
um, and actually realizing, hey, my vocals are really fucking solid, but my production's not there yet. But I
Hmm.
was super stubborn, and I kept like hustling and hustling and hustling and grinding and grinding and grinding and working coffee shops and doing other shitty jobs for years until
Yeah.
I finally started clicking for me. But until that point, I was just like, I mean, I'm a Taurus, so we are stubborn people, and I actually do believe in that. And I was just basically going into the wall, like boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, and so there was no flexibility from me. But I do feel like I wouldn't have it any other way. But I do feel like it cost me years.
Yeah.
Um, and there had to be a certain I had to give up my identity as a something, as a someone, as a,
Mm.
what I mean, like as just like you gave your identity as the guy who works mixing, and then or engineering and all these things, and then you just like moved on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one. You just became a jack of all trade like that, and people know they can trust you.
Hmm.
So that is bigger than everything, because I mean, sync money doesn't just like pour rain on you. It doesn't happen like that. You have to know the people. You have to have the people like you, and the people communicate with you. In the end of the day, how do you view communication and community? What is that? What life has that? What um what has that meant in your life?
Man, community and communication is probably the biggest thing ever. And I've always like struggled to feel part of a specific community just because of like the way I was, the music I would be making would either be, oh, it's too hip hop or it's too electronic, it's not pop enough, it's not commercial enough, or it's too commercial. I've always never really fit in one specific box. Um, so that's why community. It was always I was always yearning to be a part of like a certain community, and like I would go kick it with the engineers, and the engineers would be like, "Oh, you're more of a producer than an engineer." Then I go kick it with the producers, and they're like, "Oh, you're more of an engineer than a producer." I'm like, kick it with the artists, and I'm like, "Yeah, you're an artist, but you're more of this," and So it's I've never really found that community, and uh, when I did finally find it, I was been searching for it. Like I'm in the desert thirsting, man. Like I'm just by
Yeah.
myself. I'm like you say, hitting walls over and over again, and I'm going crazy. And when I was in Bangkok, I found this community of like-minded musicians and artists and like writers and this all these different disciplines of art, and that we form this cool little community, man. And I feel like Bangkok is really special in that way, where there are all these different pockets of like underground music and then like commercial music and live artists and just a whole like ecosystem of people doing really cool shit. And
Mm.
that's where I blended in at and blended in with this community, and I could share work and we could openly talk about what's dope and what's not, and like, hey, you need to change this line, or hey, let me throw some chords on that on top of that for you. And like that collaboration, that community, man, was like so imperative because I can only do so much. I can only think so much. And sometimes I'll think myself out of a good thing. Sometimes I'll be by myself and be like, yeah, this track sounds good. Actually, it sucks. I'm going to delete all these tracks and just like keep it bare bones, or overproduce something. And then I'll play it for someone else and they're like, dude, you did too much. Just take out six of those tracks. Like those ears, those opinions, that feedback, especially when it's constructive, is so imperative, man. And like being able to take that feedback and actually not be offended or like not be super sensitive about it, and knowing that it's you can trust people when they give you that feedback is so imperative and important. So yeah, find your community, man. It took me a long time to get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny you say that, but yeah, having a few people you trust their ear is
Yeah.
just so valuable. I cannot even stress that enough. It is so like it is overlooked, and just I've realized it just when I started working with a lot of labels,
Mhm.
where they're like, "Oh, do you hear that little thing in the mids you have?" And I'm like, "What?" And then I listen again, and I'm like, "Oh shit!
Yeah,
Whoa,
right.
what are you? Why did I do that?" Like, but until that point, I heard it 300 times, and it was cool. So I mean, having that community in some sort or shape, way, or form is just like so important, man. I 100% um, agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Are you a vocalist, man? You said you were talking about your vocals. Are you a vocalist? You're a singer?
Yeah. I don't
Nice.
know if you yeah, if you have a look at my portfolio and everything, it's my vocals on everything. So
Dope. Okay, cool.
I do a lot of rap. So
Okay.
yeah,
Oh man, what? We need to collab, man. I didn't know you. All right, yeah, we definitely got to collab. Yeah, let's do that.
man, I learned it the hard way. I learned it in New York, like
Oh
in
yeah,
yeah. I got
that's cool.
shit on. I got shit on. This is the first time that I talk about it, actually. Yeah, but I got shit on
But like, it was.
for
Do you feel like
straight.
that like helped you though? Like that toughened you up and like, all right, I'm gonna get my bars like
Oh man,
point.
like it was just to see the talent there. It's like it's so humbling. People who are their mind is already in the end of the song, in the end of the freestyle when they start.
Yeah,
I never learned to freestyle properly, but I understood. I surrounded myself with it, and I understood what hits that way.
yeah,
I understood what hits me, because it's subjective, but um, it really shaped me. The hustle, the battles, the just
yeah,
like um, performing and getting like people to react to me as a white person wearing glasses,
yeah,
and rapping, and having getting respect from people who have been doing it since they were born was,
yeah,
to me, the biggest thing. But it was just like so much hustle in that. And yeah, New York was tough. I'll give it to you. Like it's everybody who lives there all their lives, like tough people.
It's a tough city, man. Yeah, that's funny you say. I can relate to that in so many ways because growing up in Thailand, I would be like writing music and writing my bars and recording my bars here, and then I would go back in the summer to America to either like see my family in Philly, New York,
Yeah,
or Atlanta. And my
yeah.
cousins would be like, "All right, I'm gonna see how good you are. We're going out to the block, and let's see
Oh,
how good you are." So I would go out battling people every summer, and I would get killed, man. Like I would get killed, and they would roast me and like just light me on fire, but that gave me so
mm,
much motivation. Like, all right, I'm not coming out here next summer and getting beat again. I'm gonna go back home. I'm gonna lock it, like get in the studio, lock it up and come back and battle. And I remember like that it was like the summer when I was like 17 years old, I came back and finally like it was like the neighborhood, the neighborhood OG who was like a monster with battle rapping, and I finally got him, man. And it was like one of those moments in my life where I'm like, yeah, I can like that meant so much to me. That meant more than winning like any kind of award. It was like that is the feeling of like respect and
yeah,
like like that self. Like yeah, I can do this. I can do this, man. I do have a pen. Like it was a whole different thing.
yeah. I think it. Yeah, it's just so interesting with vocals, especially. I mean, with rap and making it sound interesting because so many people sound like the next, right?
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and being able to, for me, it was, I understood that okay, I love Kendrick, like
yeah,
I would sound like him if I had to sound like anyone, but like I was inspired by Linkin Park when I was growing up. I was
yeah,
inspired by Ray Charles when I grew up. Like my mother used to crank that all the time, and
yeah,
Aretha Franklin and all these things. So how do I take them and put them together? And like it got me to a place where like where I am blessed enough today to choose who to work with and who to say no to,
yeah,
as a start. Like this is a big thing. Just the ability to do what I absolutely freaking love most in the world. It took a minute, right? It took me 10 years,
sure.
but to be in that position where I can sing into the mic and people will know that it's me,
Yeah,
you know?
that's amazing, man. Yeah,
So, and that's why sync is so powerful to me, because I think that there is in sync, people you have a voice. Yeah, you're not gonna make that Tom Cruise money, right?
yeah.
You're gonna make at best a few, like a six-figure check, which is amazing.
Oh yeah,
But I mean, the thing about sync is that it's not only there forever, it's paired to visuals forever.
exactly,
I mean, I
exactly.
don't know where the metaverse or everything will be in like 20, 30 years, but it's just like it's so powerful. Like to me. So the ability to have your voice attached to something that is so that you don't know how long it'll live, to me is just like there's no way to put a value on that.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, yeah. And that
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like this for you when you started rhyming and rapping. Was there a clear picture in your head that you could do like did you could rhyme for sync, or was it like did you stumble upon it? Did someone put you on like, hey man, you have good vocals, you should do this for this like film or commercial, or was this something that you had already went into knowing that you could do that?
I never knew, man. Like
Yeah,
to be honest, like the way I got into sync was so weird and coincidental. I was in Denver and I was broke, and I was like, whoa, there's another way I can make music. That was like five years ago, and then I made an album and kept going with my life,
yeah,
doing the side hustle. And just like a few years later, I got a huge check. Only these four tracks got placed, so I got a bit of royalties. And it was
okay,
only four songs, right? Like people sometimes put a hundred tracks in libraries and don't get anything.
that's
From the
true.
get go, I was getting paid for these tracks, and I was like, okay, it's $200. Like it seemed to me like nothing, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
But a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, suddenly I get hit up by BMI,
yeah,
and I have a weird feeling. I was telling my girlfriend now, she wasn't my girlfriend at the time. I was like, this, I have a weird feeling.
yeah.
I opened the email, I see 4 grand,
Woo!
4 grand from my music that I placed 5 years ago, and then I was like, holy shit, I gotta get back in. And you know, like
Yeah, man. Yeah.
at, and at the time, I mean, at this whole time, I was just like making my artist music, doing my thing, writing my bars, but not really reaching anyone. And I
Mhm.
was like, man, like if I really tap into this world, I can tap in not through like these TikToks and like not through these things, but just like through visuals
Yeah.
that are meant to touch you. That are like done by actors, by people who are actually do this for work, and
Yeah.
I can make music that sits behind them, and my voice can sit behind them. It just like made sense, you know. It's after years of doing it, I
Yeah.
never knew where it would take me. I
Yeah.
wanted to be famous at some, you know, like it's just like doing this just fills me up so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have the
So.
same like the same experience, man. I was doing a lot of live shows, and I was rapping. I was probably doing like 3 or 4 live shows a week, man. I was rapping quite a lot. I put some albums out, and I was just kind of touring around Asia. And I remember I was in Bangkok rapping at this club one night, and one of the guys came up to me afterwards. A guy in the crowd came afterwards and said, "Hey, man, you have a nice voice for film. You ever thought about that?" And I was just like, "What is he talking about?" I was like, "Voice for film? What? Like voiceovers?" He's like, "No, like you're when you rap, it sounds cinematic." And I was
Mm.
like, "Huh?" And he's like, "I work for a music agency. Come and talk to me in a couple weeks. I think I have a project that will work for you." And I went to the studio, and he's like, "This is the film we're working on. It's like it's a advertisement, but do you think you could write something? We have an instrumental. You think you could write and then rap that?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." So we sat down and did it, and once I rapped it and saw it, saw like the marriage of the visuals and the lyrics, I was like, oh my God. Like what have I why have I not been doing this, sooner? And yeah, it changed everything from then on. And that's when I was like, I'm gonna start doing this like for real. I didn't even know that I could be doing things like this, man. So yeah, I agree with you on that, relate to you there.
100%, 100%. And then like once you find your voice, it's just like understanding that to me, it's just to me, it's my strategy of doing it. It's just understanding where I can really shine.
Hmm.
And for me,
Hmm.
that was just like I can make really, really unique cinematic hip hop.
Yeah.
And then and then for me, once I pair the two, there's no doubting about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, yeah, that's crazy. We have so much to talk about, but man, what's next for you, and what piece of advice would you leave people who are listening to this and
Hmm.
need a piece of advice?
I guess what's next for me is I am just training my ears. Becoming a better producer. I want to become a better engineer. I'm just learning more, man. And I just there's not enough that you can learn about music and audio because it's just like an endless pit of knowledge and stuff. So I'm just always listening to new stuff, experimenting with new stuff. I'm working on a new solo album. I'm doing a ton of music for Sync. I'm getting a catalog built up for Sync, and then also doing a lot of stuff to Brief. And yeah, I'm just working hard at the Washington Post and getting getting my chops up, man. It's incredible. I feel like I'm in a good place to really be extremely creative with my artwork and music and I haven't felt like that in a long time. So now it's time to really take off this year and take it to the next level with sync, music, audio, and everything all in between, man. I feel like it's all the same to me. So yeah, I'm just gonna just keep going and just stay positive and keep an open mind. But I would say for anyone, any up and coming artists, producers, getting into sync, getting into music, yo, just it is a numbers game and it is a time game. Okay, like this thing takes time. Like, don't get on Instagram or TikTok thinking you're gonna blow up overnight. It's not gonna happen. When we grew up, there was no social media. Like, it was expected that this is gonna take some time. And the OGs used to tell me like, this is gonna take some time. And I'll share this piece of advice with you that one of the engineers I look up to, his name is Exit. He's an engineer for Usher and like a host of other incredible artists. I'm sitting with him actually in the climax. Remember that song by Usher called Climax? It was produced by Diplo. This came out in like 2014, 2013. But I was sitting there in the mixing room with Exit and I'm talking with him about stuff and I'm playing him some of my tracks here and there, when he's not mixing. and he told me something. He said, what you're doing is going to take you a long time to get to, but once you get there, the rewards will be, you will not be able to like, what's the word? It's going to take a long time to get to where you're going, but once you get there, the awards will be incredible. It's going to be something you never even thought of,
Mm.
but you have to keep going. You have to keep going. It's going to take you some time. So that would be my advice. And that's what I always put the battery in my back when I'm feeling low or down, is that whatever you're doing, it may take you some time to get there, but really the rewards are incredible, man. The feeling, the financial aspect of it, the respect aspect of it, the creative aspect of being an artist and feeling that way and just waking up saying like, hey, I get to do this every single day is one of the things that just makes you, it makes life worth living every single day, man. So yeah, that's what I would give my advice to. Keep learning and just keep going. Because a lot of people drop out. They can't, they stop, maybe they get frustrated. Just keep going and things will open up to you as long as you stay open minded and be nice to people. Just be nice, be cool, and it'll work out for you.
Yeah. And to chime in, every year that you go on, 100 people fall. So just like
Yeah.
keep keep stay on that branch, because yeah, you will get there in the end, whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yep.
Where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is UNDA World Underworld. That's my stage name. So y'all can find me there. I'm also on LinkedIn, Sean Carter. That's really all I use. I'm going to use. I try to keep it like so, small, so I could just focus on two things and then get back to the music.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It was a pleasure, and I'll see you in Thailand soon.
Of
Yeah.
course, yeah. Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.